Hi there. Today we'll show you how to build a Lightning component that can be placed anywhere on any page in Salesforce. Before we begin, I just wanted to point out this amazing resource that Salesforce has for you. If you don't know what Lightning components are or how the framework actually works, I would recommend going to the Lightning Components Developer Guide in Salesforce. Apart from that, you also have Trailhead, where they have extensive documentation and training on how you can create your own Lightning component. Apart from what you would learn on Trailhead, today we'll build a Lightning component that can actually be dragged and dropped anywhere. Another thing I wanted to point out was the Lightning design system is something separate from Lightning components. Lightning design system is an open source resource that Salesforce has provided for anyone who wants to build projects, apps, web applications that look and feel like Salesforce Lightning. I wouldn't go too much into the Lightning design system, but just so that you know how to use it, we will be using the Lightning design system in our project today. What we have done offline is that we downloaded this file. So you click on the get the Lightning design system, scroll down, get the zipped file. Once you have the zip file, you'll go into Salesforce, and in your static resources, just add that with this name. So we have already done that. And what you have here, SLDS103, you'll see me reference it when we start building our component. All right, so let's jump into Salesforce. So first of all, this is the Lightning App Builder. For some of the things that we'll be doing today, a quick housekeeping thing is to enable this pilot feature. So this feature is not enabled by default. It's in pilot. This will let us drag and drop our Lightning component onto any page. So before we begin, I am just going to save this setting under Lightning App Builder. Once that's done, one more thing I wanted to point out was that our My domain has been enabled, and you would need this to start working with Lightning components and Lightning apps. We have already enabled our My domain and published it to our users, but before you begin, please make sure that you go through this setting. So just search for My domain. When you get there, you would be prompted to choose a domain. Then you would register your domain. Once it's registered, you would be asked to log in one more time using that domain. If everything works, then you would deploy it to your users. Once all of these steps have been completed, it's only after that that we'll be able to use our Lightning components in apps and on pages. All right, so now that we have all our housekeeping done, let's get into creating a Lightning component. Click on Developer Console. Once your console opens, click on hover over New. Once you have that, you'll be able to select Lightning component. So let's do that. It'll ask us to give it a name. So in our case, we'll call it Global Alert. And for description, let's just call it Customizable Alert for all page types. What we're going to do is click on Submit. Once you get this, one of the best practice is to always put in your name here just so that you have it. As you can see, there's no other place here to copy the name of the component. So, as I mentioned, we'll be using the Lightning design system. So before we do anything else, let's include the Lightning design system. Now I've quickly copied and pasted it here, but let's go through what's in this long line. First of all, we're saying Lightning require. What this lets you do is require your resources in multiple components. And as you'll see, we can actually include multiple components from very different vendors onto the same page. What that means is if I were to include a resource multiple times, it would be downloaded multiple times from your servers. Now, to reduce that download time and to avoid any other conflicts, Salesforce provides us with this lightning require tag, in which if you give us a name of your resource, and if you're using this component any number of times, the resource will only be downloaded only once. So this is a resource within Salesforce, and that's all we can use right now. So you start with resource, and from here you have the name of the resource. So as you remember, we called it SLDS 103. Everything after this is within the folder structure of the resource. So we have assets, then styles, and then this is the CSS file that has all the Lightning design system styles in it. So once we have that loaded, we're going to do one thing that SLDS asks us to do, which is to wrap everything in our code within the SLDS class. So our alert should look and feel like what Salesforce does. So let's go to our design system page. Once we're here, we'll look under components. There are quite a few components here. What we're going to use is cards. When you click here, you see there's a base card, and within this card, CSS or HTML markup, you'll see there's a compact version and then there's an empty version. So we could definitely take this from here and then modify it to whatever we need. So we'll take this, go back to our page, and paste it here. And I'll do some formatting. Alright, so this is the card. This is the header section. I won't go into all the details of these classes, but just so you know, Salesforce Lightning Design System follows a very strict rule when it comes to classes. So you need to make sure that you're copying and pasting correctly. If you're changing these classes, do refer to their documentation. In our case, we'll take this, and one thing we will add to this would be the Aura ID. So Aura ID is a way for us to capture or name our divs and our HTML markup. So what I'm doing here is calling this the header. So this whole section becomes our header. And in my JavaScript, I'll be able to reference it by this name. Then I'll add, so what's the text we want to add here? It says card header. Obviously we don't want that. We'll call it alert. And since we're not going to be centering our code, I think we can get rid of this part as well. So all this HTML is doing is centering everything on the page. So let's get rid of that. In fact, let's get rid of everything. So all we have here is the body. So this is the header part. As you can see, SLDS card header, and this is the card body. Within the body is where we would place our content. So our text. So just to try it out for now, let's just place content here and see what will happen. So in order to test how our component is doing, as you can see, there's no way for me to right now view it or preview it. So first of all, let's save this. And our next step is adding an app. So in order to test a component or just to see what it looks like, you need to wrap it within an app. And it could be a Lightning app, or it could be an app that we build using code. So let's create a Lightning application. So in this case, I'm going to call it Global Alert App. And let's call it that. Save it. Once you have this, again, as a best practice, I'm going to give it a comment. telling us what that is. And in order to bring our component in here, what Salesforce gives us is a quick little snippet. What you can do is call C colon and then the name of your alert. So our alert was called global alert, so all we did was C colon global alert. Once we do this, we can save it. At this point, actually, let me talk about a little bit of these components that you see on the side. So apart from the component, which is the first thing, and if we go to a component, you'll see same thing here. You have the component, but you also have all these other files. On the app as well, you have all these other files. So let's open the style. So what we're going to do is give our component or the app a style. Now, so what Salesforce is doing for us is that when you click on this app, you'll see I didn't give it a namespace the way I did over here SLDS. So in our component, we're wrapping everything within an SLDS. Now, just in case people don't forget that everything needs to be wrapped, Salesforce automatically wraps everything within a dynamic class that you can reference in your CSS by the name of this. All right. So one of the things you might have noticed here is that you have this preview button, which we did not. If I go back to my global alert, you'll see there's no button to preview. Whereas on the app, I can just click on that button. When I do that, it opens up our alert. So here is our alert. That's the content. And if we change the contents to and save this, when I go back and refresh my page, you see that our content changes. The neat thing is that I can place it as many times as I want. So I can place it 3 times, and as I saved this application, you saw it refreshed in the background, and now I have these 3 components. Okay, so that's all good, but this is just static content. We don't want to play with static content. Let's add some dynamic stuff to it. So the first thing we need to do in order to add anything that is dynamic is to first of all create something called an attribute. So I'm going to go right at the top of my component and add this attribute. So our attribute is a tag. We give it a name and we tell what type is title and we give it a default value. Now that we have this, I can go in and replace my alert with just v.title. By v, I mean the view. So because this is declared in the view, the attribute, we call it by v dot and then the name of the attribute. I can go in here and actually reference it. So I can say title is equal to new alert and save it. Now since I have a default value, if I go back to my page, you'll see that the first one gets a new one and the other 2 are just using the default. Now I can override it anywhere. So I can override it here saying title is another title. And when I save it, you can see that these 2 have something that's defined and this one comes with the standard default alert. All right, so now that we've understood how it actually works, I think you might have already figured by now that I'll be adding another attribute. And the new attribute would obviously be called content. So we'll place our content. And now that we have the content attribute declared, let's use that as well. So just like we did for the title, we'll start a curly brace, v dot content, close our curly braces, save this. And if we go in here, I refresh, you'll see every component gets our default value. Now let's go to our app and give these dynamic content. So content is equal to content, and let's do the same here. Alright, if we come back here, as you can see now, we're getting the dynamic content as well. Okay, so now that our component looks like it's ready, it's showing up on our page, let's go back to our setup and try to add it to our Lightning app. We'll click on New Lightning app. You'll see that you get this new pop-up now, whether you want to use it as a record page or not. For now, let's try it without the record page. So we'll click on New App Page. We'll leave it at one column. Click on Next. Let's call this Test App. Finish. And you'll see that we can drag and drop our components from here just by clicking on it. So these are the standard components Salesforce provides, but there's some problem. I can't see my component here. Now, I left it out on purpose because I wanted to point out that there's one thing you need to do to your component for it to actually show up on your Lightning pages, and that is adding this line. So implements FlexiPage available for all page types is by putting this, we're implementing an interface that tells Salesforce that should be shown up on our Lightning component page layouts. So just by doing this and clicking save, now if I go back to my Lightning app builder and I want to reload this page, finish, and there you go. Now you see our global alert as a custom component. So to bring it to our page, I'll click on global alert, and there you have it. So that's our global alert. I can save this. I can even activate it and show it on our Salesforce One app. Now all this is good, but as you can imagine, when I click on it, I can't really change the alert or the text. So we were able to do that in code using the global alert app. Now in order to add capability for me to change the title and the content, there's one more thing we need to do on our component. So going back to the component, we'll click on this button, Design. What it'll do is open up another section, which is basically another file within the component. And in that file, we need to define which attributes we need to bring in and expose in our designer. So the first one is the title. So we name it the same way we named it in the global alert. So title and content, and in a design, we have the same title and content. Now you don't show anything else here because the type and the default value has already been declared within the component. All we're telling here is on the label that would appear in the designer and the description that would appear in the designer. It's kind of like the help text. Edit, and click on my component, you'll see we get this two text box. So the alert title is the label that I gave here, and the alert content is the label for the second section. The description goes into this help text, so feel free to use these as you wish, but here I can say this is an alert. Here, make good use of this app. And just like that, we have our app and the component on here. Now this is great because we could use this one component that we built on every page that we want. And all we have to do is click on it in the sidebar, bring it here, change its values, and Bob's your uncle. Alright, so let's go, let's save this, click on back, And if you were thinking that's the coolest thing so far, let me show you one more, and that's this pilot feature. It would work. As you can see in the gear icon, I only have two options right now. But if I were to, let's say, go on to my opportunities, let's open any opportunity. And let's say for your users, you want to make sure that there is something important that they should always see, or something that you want to tell them that they should always see whenever they open up an opportunity. Now, using the same component, we'll try to modify this standard page that Salesforce provides us. Okay, so clicking on this gear icon, as you saw before, there were only two options. We have this new option called Edit Page. I'll click on that, and it'll bring me to this Edit Opportunity page layout. As you can see, everything here is a component that Salesforce has built, which is so cool. Like now we can even change what Salesforce components provide us. So just by clicking on anything, you'll see different options appear on the right hand side. But for today, let's not get into that and click on our global alert component. So in order to bring it to the page, I can click and start dragging it, and let's put it here on top. Once we put it there, as you can see, our default values have come in. I can replace it. Let's say this is a process change alert, and we're telling the users that there's something new they need to do. So just like that, I can click on save, activate it. Yes, I want to activate on the opportunity page layout. I'll click on save, save one more time, and back. And there you go. So this text, which is customized just for opportunities, is available on each of your opportunities. So no matter who goes in there, they'll see this new process change alert that you're throwing out at every user. So that's all we have for today. So just to recap, what we showed you today was, first off, how to create a component, how to use styles to style your component, how to use a Lightning app to test and change the attributes on your components. Then how do you use the Lightning App Builder to create a Salesforce One app and use your components within it? And then finally, to use the pilot feature of editing page layouts and placing your home built components onto those pages as well. That's all for today, and thank you so much for watching.